Everybody loves progressive ideas until they see what happens when they're actually applied. Because if you ask me, these plans are amazing, right? These ideas are phenomenal, right? They're infallible, right? They are meticulous. They sound good on paper, but then when you actually put it into play, unfortunately, reality doesn't really care about your feelings, and everybody and everything gets judged on results. And the results are not looking too good right now. And, let's just go ahead and, address that reality. One of the more progressive ideas is to be softer on crime, right? It wasn't that bad. It's his first time committing this crime. He's not a career criminal. People make mistakes, but, and they genuinely think that it'll bring more understanding, fairness, and possibly even rehabilitation, right? But then when you look at the results, what do you see? Crime is skyrocketing, right? Businesses are leaving communities that they were in before, right? These business owners are taking their stuff to the next street, to the better neighborhood, right? Innocent people are getting hurt in the process. And essentially what you see is just, the fact that these progressive ideas are hurting the communities that they were supposed to be protecting. Another very progressive idea are these social programs that, are supposed to lift people up. And while these people create these programs, like I said, they sound very good on paper and they have good intentions. But what they don't realize is that whenever you reward mediocrity, whenever you reward people being dependent on things, you actually don't empower them. It's a trap. And what essentially happens is that, you're just creating generation after generation who are going to be heavily dependent on this system and dependent on these social programs. You create generations of people who are just waiting for handouts instead of actually building themselves up. Here's the main core problem with progressivism and liberal ideas and all these new ideas where we're trying to reinvent the wheel and reinvent everything under the sun. It's focused on intent versus outcomes, right? It's focused on intent over outcomes, and that's the main problem. It's almost an ideology and a system where they're saying, if it sounds compassionate, if it sounds moral, if it sounds kind and inclusive and equality for everybody, it'll work. It'll work. But here's what these progressives don't understand. Like, it doesn't matter. It sounds good on, like I said, kudos to you. You drew up a great plan that looks great on paper. But when you actually put it into play, it literally makes no sense. Real life doesn't care about your well-written policies about what they say or how they make people feel. It's about, are communities actually improving, are families stronger, and are people safer? Because like I said at the top of the video, all these progressive ideas and these liberal ideas, they sound good on paper, right? They're well-written, well-articulated, meticulously, right? But when you actually put them into real life, it does not work. And I would even argue they're not compassionate, they're not moral, they're destructive. Very destructive to society.